Normally, when you say female icon, you may think of people like Rosa Parks, Marie Curie, or even Taylor Swift. But have you ever heard of Emily Howard Stowe? She fought for her own right to higher education and for women across Canada. She was also a suffragette, and the very first female doctor in Canada. In her early life, she was homeschooled by her mother along with her 5 sisters, teaching them herbal medicine. Emily became a teacher at the age of only 15 in Somerville, Ontario, which is unheard of at our time. But back in the 1800s it was commonplace. 7 years later, she applied to Victoria College in Ontario, but rejected because she was a woman. She persevered and got accepted into normal school for Upper Canada in Toronto, which was the only advanced school in Canada that accepted women. Surprising to everyone around her, she graduated in 1854 with first-class honors. Soon after, she was hired at the Brantford School Board to be the first public school female principal in Ontario. Not only was she resilient in her battle for her own higher education, she also paved the way for women in Canada by starting and leading 2 organizations that demand equality for men and women in education, voting, and workplace treatment. She was a co-founder and vice president of the first suffrage group in Canada, the Toronto Women's Literacy Club, founded in 1876. They'd gather weekly and discuss women's issues. In 1881, the group had a consultation with the legislation about women voting. This brought a new law that women who have property qualifications can vote on bylaws and minor municipal matters. This was only a stepping stone for women's rights across Canada. It was not until about 40 years later that women in Canada could vote, and it was help from their efforts. Since this was such a radical concept at the time, they chose the name Toronto Women's Literacy Club in order to not cause suspicion or controversy. Later, in 1877, the name changed to the Canadian Women's Suffrage Association to more accurately describe the group's intentions. As the hard-working woman she is, Emily Howard Stowe was the first female doctor in Canada, but it was not easy. She applied to schools in Toronto in 1865, but was not accepted because she was a woman. The vice president of the school even told her, "The doors of the university are not open to women, and they truly will never be." This is how women were treated back then, but that never let Emily stop her. Stowe then left Canada to pursue her education in New York Medical College for Women, which taught homeopathic medicine, and 2 years later she came back to Toronto and opened her own medical practice. 2 years later, she applied to Toronto School of Medicine with another female student named Jenny Trout, and they were the very first women to take that class. Even Emily's daughter, Augusta Stowe Gullen, followed in her footsteps and became a doctor, activist, and lecturer. She set a record like her mother as being the very first female doctor that was trained in Canada. It's crazy to think that once women in Canada could not vote or get a proper education to become something higher in their life. Now, 200 years later, it is crucial to recognize the people in our past who helped us as a country. Without people like Emily Stowe, we may not have equal voting rights, the right to equal education, or the right to choose our own career path.